Welcome to the Pump Rules Podcast, the show where cast and connoisseurs come to talk all things Vanderpump Rules.
I'd like to welcome to Pump Rules Podcast, Mandy Slutsker.
Thank you so much. Happy to be here.
Heard you on the Messy Queens show, and Messy Queens are coming on soon.
Yes.
How'd you get in touch with them originally?
Randomly on Twitter, I responded to a question that they had about whether or not they thought Faith really cheated with Jax or Jax cheated with Faith. And I had all these opinions and ideas, and I responded to them, and then I looped you guys in.
Oh, that's right.
Because you had posted something or said something on your podcast, and we got into this conversation, and I sort of accidentally invited myself on your podcast.
Which is funny because I actually wanted you on. So then when I saw that message later about you accidentally inviting, I thought, no, I want you on. So it's a good accident.
Well, thank you for having me.
Oh, yeah. Thanks for being here. And tell us about your podcast.
Yeah. So I started a podcast about 2 weeks ago called Is This Real Life with Mandy Slutsker. And it just it is sort of your reality recap podcast. But really, I like to think of it as Seinfeld meets reality TV, really looking at sort of the quirkiest aspects of our lives and seeing how they are mirrored in pop culture and reality TV.
Cool. Well, I liked what I heard so far, and I'm looking forward to listening to the new episode.
Thanks.
And on your description, on Twitter, it says you're a global health advocate and reality TV connoisseur, which I think is fairly obvious, but also a shark enthusiast and avid Vikings fan.
Huge Vikings fan.
Global health advocate. What does that entail?
So I work on tuberculosis globally. I advocate for governments to increase funding for programs that fight TB and to invest in research and development. TB is actually the world's leading infectious killer. It kills more people than HIV and malaria combined.
Wow.
Yeah.
The classic question for new guests, how did you end up getting into Vanderpump Rules?
Oh my gosh, the first episode. I was pulled into it by watching Real Housewives of Beverly Hills.
Sure.
And, kind of tricked into it and thought, what is this?
And
this is Real Housewives with people my age.
Right. That's a good summary.
And that first season with Stassi and the breakup with Jax, I think was episode 2. And it was the most dramatic breakup I've ever witnessed.
Until now. Until now, although we can't really classify Jax and Brittany as a breakup. But I would say, what do you think? I think this season is the most dramatic yet.
This season is, yes. No, that the Stassi and Jax, is this a breakup? Because that was their question. That I thought was so dramatic. This season is, I don't even know what's coming next.
Right. I mean, we're only 6 episodes in, and it's bound to be a long, probably at least 22 or something like that episodes. My guess, anyway.
We don't deserve this show. I don't know what I did to deserve this. It is so wonderful to watch.
Yeah.
It is so fun as a viewer. There's so much happening. And even if they did write the script, which they know that they don't,
right?
You couldn't come up with it.
That's the thing. Some of these turns, you just think this, how in the world did this even happen? And no one could fabricate some of this stuff, like the voice recording.
Oh my God. And just the fact that James went into a bathroom and sent it to himself, that was epic.
How often do you have your phone just in the hands of others, would you say?
Never.
Yeah. No, exactly. Even if you do hand it to a trusted friend, you're kind of like, can I have that back? Can I have that back?
There's a reason why only your fingerprint can open it or your face.
Right. Do you have the iPhone 10?
I don't, but my friend does, and when she wasn't looking, her sister and I changed it to our faces.
Oh, good. That's great. So that's terrific security. So you can actually circumvent that. You can screw it up for someone.
Yeah, it was pretty funny.
How did you feel when the housewarming party started and it got so crazy, and then it was a classic Vanderpump cliffhanger?
I just couldn't believe that they left me with that cliffhanger and I had to wait another week. I was like, what are they doing to me? And I really thought that they would possibly play the tape in this week's episode.
Don't we all want to hear that so badly?
No, I think there's probably some laws and restrictions on illegally taping someone in California.
Yeah, definitely. The wiretapping laws, I think, is actually what it falls under. Yeah. I think it might be a bit like any of those beheading videos in that you watch it and you're probably never quite the same afterwards.
Yeah, you feel icky after. You're like, I shouldn't have witnessed this. This is too private. It's not for me.
But we still want it.
Yeah, you still do.
Yeah, absolutely.
Until you actually hear it. I feel like we got the gist of what was in it, though.
Yeah, we got a fairly good rundown. I mean, there might be a couple words here or there that are left out. Back to the previous episode where they're painting and drinking with Mindy Howland at Peyton Sip. Schwartz is sort of badgered into having a sip of the Green Fairy. Have you ever had the Green Fairy?
I don't know if it's the Green Fairy. I've definitely had absinthe in Europe, and it is different than absinthe in the U.S.
So you had the proper sugar cube, all that stuff. Cool. How was it?
Yeah. It tastes kind of like licorice, which I didn't like, but I liked the effects.
How would you describe the effects?
Just being very tipsy and a little bit out of it, and everything's kind of magical. I actually had it in South Africa at a bar that was based off of Lord of the Rings theme.
That's a perfect place to have a mildly hallucinogenic experience.
And I looked up, and I swear Bilbo Baggins just walked through the door.
That's a pretty good endorsement for the Green Fairy.
And actually, Fairy.
You know what's exciting is this is the first episode where we have a proper booze sponsor, at least the first one in a while. And I hope you're enjoying a lovely can of Babe Rosé.
Yes, I am. I have one with me right now.
Terrific, yeah.
Take a sip.
Thank you to Swish Beverage Company for providing us with Babe Rosé and Pink Party, which will be enjoyed on a future episode.
Ooh, Pink Party. That sounds fun.
Pink Party is more of their champagne, so that should be exciting. Yeah.
I'm fine with all.
Yeah, they all sound like pretty good options, right?
Yes.
So what do you think also about the Schwartz cheating allegation?
Oh, I really don't like it. So I am from Minneapolis originally, and I know Schwartz is from Minnesota. And I've always been so proud of how nice he is and how kind he is and how everyone seems to like him.
Yeah.
I feel like most people from Minnesota are like that. And he really let me down with this because unlike previous allegations, now he's married and he just should know better. And I was really disappointed with how his reaction was when Katie was like, "You're not getting drunk again." And he's like, "You won't tell me what to do." And it's like, of course she will. She's your wife. What did you think a marriage is?
Right. And he also kind of really reacted so poorly when he was like, "Try get some fucking perspective." That was just not the greatest comeback to that whole thing.
And I feel what I'm really happy about this season is I feel like it's sort of the redemption of Katie Maloney Schwartz. I feel like she got such a bad edit last time. It made me not like her, and I'm sure she's a lovely person.
Yeah.
So, I've heard her on your podcast, and she made more sense than most people I've heard speak in general when she talked about how she has a smaller group of friends around her because she doesn't trust people. She wants to have a tight-knit group. And I thought, wow, that's really smart for someone who's on television and who can be taken advantage of at any moment.
Right,
so
exactly.
I feel like she has calmed down. She's taken a step back. She's trying to just enjoy and live her life. And then this kind of came out of nowhere and was a slap in the face. She handled it so well compared to what I thought was going to happen at that party.
Yeah.
At Guillermo's birthday party. I thought it was going to be absolute craziness.
Sure.
And it wasn't.
Schwartz also didn't make anything any better by bringing it up and revealing to her what was going on or the allegation in front of everyone.
He was not thinking. I don't think he thinks very well when he drinks. And it just kind of all came out. And you could tell Ariana was just grimacing. She just really didn't want it to happen that way.
That was the first big alley fight of the year.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
Oh, I live for the alley fights.
Aren't they great? No, so have you been to the restaurants? Have you been out to the LA area?
Once.
Yeah.
Yeah. Last November. Okay, so not this past November, but in 2016, a friend of mine and I went out and had such a fun night. We got pumptinis. We ordered a bunch of different drinks on the menu. And then we went out to the alley and super creepily did a bunch of video shots for ourselves.
That's perfect. That's the way to do it in the alley.
We're like, and then someone came up and was like, "What are you guys doing?" We're like, "Don't you know this is a sacred place?"
Why would anyone not know if they're affiliated with the restaurant?
How would you not know?
Right. Was it someone affiliated with the restaurant that came out and questioned you?
I have no idea. We had a couple drinks by then and just kind of scurried on over to Pump.
It adds to the experience when you have to get out of the alley for some reason, or there's some kind of mistrust or intrigue.
And like we really thought we were going to get in trouble. We really, for some reason, thought we were going to get in trouble. We're like, we got to go. I have no idea why we thought that.
Well, because it's so loaded with magic, that area.
It is all the best moments.
What do you think of the possible convenience of the fact that the girl who says Schwartz made out with her is a friend of Lala's and all of that?
I feel like everyone in LA is a friend of Lala's. So, like, he should just stay away from all the women.
That's actually a decent T-shirt, too. Friend of Lala.
Yeah.
That would be good.
Oh, my God. She should capitalize on that.
She should. Or if the James May T-shirt company ever does come out of hiatus, that would not be a bad one. I mean, Kristen, I think they're all friends now.
Yeah, I was going to say Kristen is friends with him now, so they should get on that shit.
And what's your take on the Katie Lala relationship as to where it is now?
I think it'll get better. I think Katie feels bad that she commented on Lala's relationship again. I do think it probably was edited weirdly and she meant it as a joke and it just didn't come across that way. But they seemed like they buried the hatchet at last year's reunion, and I truly believe it. And so I look forward to seeing them get along moving forward.
Same here, and I like that they had that moment at SUR where they sort of squashed the beef really quickly and easily, and you can tell that it wasn't going to be something that was continually inflamed.
Well, the thing I really like about Lala is how open she is about feminism and body positivity.
Sure.
And, you know, when she had that moment with Ariana where she said, you know, I look in the mirror every day and I think every body part. And so that really didn't jive with what she said about summer bodies and, you know, shaming Katie. And so I bet she had a moment where she was watching herself on TV and thought, oh my God, this isn't me. I got carried away. I tried to create some drama. I wanted to be relevant on the show. And I actually went against everything that I stand for. And she probably felt pretty terrible.
So what did you think about then Lala's mini speech at the housewarming? And we'll sort of go in order, but, you know, this is on topic. So James has the bright idea to tell the women that not only is this a bad idea, he also infers that any group of women numbering 5 or more is probably just dangerous to begin with.
And I would agree. And I think that that's a good thing, right? Like, people should fear women. We are strong. We are powerful. When we get together en masse, we can really do things. I mean, look at the Women's March last year.
Right.
That was an amazing moment that I was able to be part of. And when women get angry, they can be empowered and they can get shit done. So props to Stassi for getting James back off.
Yeah, I liked how he ran out of the room, but he took the limeade with him.
He did. I wish he had gone off on one of those little cooler scooters that Jax had.
That would have been the best. Yeah.
It would have been the slowest moving thing, but it would have been just absolutely epic. It was epic regardless, him running away from the girls.
I'm glad you brought up the cooler. How great is that?
I replayed it 3 times. I was like, what is that and where can I find one?
One of our neighbors was at Gelson's and Jax was on the scooter. So Jax drove it down the street to Gelson's. Yeah. They may have already been imbibing that day. I'm not sure. Who knows? But
oh, that's awesome. That's probably the best thing that Jax has given us this season.
I do hope to see it in the middle of some other fights that I'm sure are bound to happen in the rest of the season.
I hope so. You need a little bit of comedy. I thought that actually my favorite part of the episode was the toilet paper cake.
How great was the toilet paper cake? Yeah.
That DIY was amazing. Like, arts and crafts galore. I had such a laugh.
Yeah, that was the standout gift for sure. I mean, it's useful, it's pretty, it's great.
And just the fact that he came and he was so proud. He's like, look I made it. It's a housewarming gift.
Right.
And it was useful.
We were talking about what you think of the cheating allegations. How about the allegation against Sheena's man with the whole Toca Madero thing?
Ooh, yeah. I don't know what to think. I don't really care. I'm so uninterested in their relationship.
But everyone's bringing it up all the time.
I think by everyone, do you mean Sheena? Nobody cares. I already know that they're broken up. I was never invested in that relationship. I don't know who he is. I don't know who his famous sister is. I don't know why she's like pretends like she's been best friends with him for 12 years, where she was like with somebody else for 7 and probably not speaking to him during that time.
More than likely, right.
So I don't care.
And the more she makes us think about it, the more I think, of course it's true.
I don't even know if it is true or if she just wants screen time and wants to be relevant on the show because she sees herself fading away and isn't friends with a lot of the characters or people.
Right. Well,
I always forget they're real people.
It's actually animated, so there's no real. It's new CGI technology.
And so, yeah, I don't know. I think Sheena's trying to stay relevant and she's making her and Rob a thing, and it's not happening. No one cares.
You said Sheena seems to be fading out. I mean, it does seem that there's just not much for her or for us to grab onto with her.
With Sheena, she's I don't know if the only, but the primary person on Vanderpump Rules that I feel is truly not authentic. And it comes across so strongly this season that it's painful. And I feel for her because I'm sure she's a wonderful person. She's friends with Ariana. She can't be terrible.
Sure.
But, you know, she has lost herself and she's always trying to be what everyone wants her to be or what she thinks everyone wants her to be. And every season she's different. And I just want to know who she is. But unfortunately, I don't think she knows who she is, which is probably why she has pictures of herself everywhere just to remind herself that she still exists.
Yeah. So that's not a bad tip, listeners. If you do have that issue yourself, try to keep a few pictures around. And
like, that's me.
Oh, right. I like to go hiking. Oh, okay. I like to go to the zoo. That's perfect. Oh, I was with this guy for 7 years, even though I try to invalidate that every time I open my mouth about relationships.
She is the one person on the show. I mean, they all could benefit from this, but her more than anyone. To do like a self-discovery trip to India, lose the false eyelashes, lose the Botox, lose the hair extensions, you know, and just really be with herself. And I don't know if she can do it, but she would benefit the most from it. And I think if she was truly herself, she would actually be great on the show.
And Lala is, to me, more appealing this season because I feel that she's being more real.
She is. Totally.
Right?
By copying up to her relationship, by sharing why she felt the need to kind of run away last season, all of it. It makes you know more real when Ariana talks about her body issues. That's more real.
Yeah.
You know, when people talk about their vulnerabilities, that's real. When Stassi is open about being scared about being single, you know, that's real. And so I really appreciate when they're authentic. And sometimes when they show the worst of themselves is when you can tell, like, okay, this is their bottom, but at least it's them.
How did you feel about Stassi when she was first on the show? And then how did you feel about her when she had that sort of break and then came back?
So I love Stassi.
Yeah.
She was like my favorite villain, and now I don't feel like she's a villain anymore, and she's transformed, and I have gone on that journey with her. So I appreciate the fact that she learned something. I think she was very humbled by her experience leaving the show and the show going on just fine without her. That when she came back, she really did miss her friendships and realize how badly she messed up. I do think that when she first got on the show, she was sort of playing a caricature of herself, more of like a Blair Waldorf sort of Gossip Girl style. I think that was her inspiration. So she was extra bitchy. She was extra mean. She was very dramatic. And I don't know if that was truly her, but she got carried away with it.
Sure. Yeah. It did reach sort of a zenith. Right before she left. And then I found her very charming when she came back. And like, as you said, the vulnerability, showing all of that, then you can relate to the person. Well, you can't when someone's just putting up a front. Like, for instance, with me, my take on Lala last year was just very like, so you're putting on a front and, you know, you're lapsing into this whole sort of character speak. And I don't really get that.
And Stassi has had such an impact on me. I think she is so... like such a character and has been so fun to watch her grow. I'm actually getting a dog. I'm getting a puppy in the spring and I'm naming her Stassi.
Oh my God. She'll love that. That's amazing.
Will you tell her?
Absolutely. Yeah. Will you send a photo when you get your dog?
Yeah, it probably won't be until May or so, but yeah, it's a little Westy. And someone recently asked me, like, why Stassi? And I'm like, well, because she's also a little white bitch.
She'll enjoy that as well. And since you're such a Stassi fan, I think it'd be interesting to get your take on the recent scandal on Twitter, or rather on Instagram, that led to the Twitter, and also the prior controversy.
Oh, yeah. So Stassi, I appreciate how open she is with her words.
Sure.
I do feel like she talks to, in her podcast, as if she's talking to a friend. And that's what makes it so charming. Mm-hmm. But you say things in private conversations that are probably not ready for prime time.
Yeah.
I know I do. I say things that off-color jokes, things that are funny just between me and my friends that probably aren't funny outside of that context.
Right.
And I wish sometimes she screened herself a little bit more, especially on things that are really sensitive, such as sexual assault. But I appreciate that she owned the fact that she was wrong, and then later had a person on the podcast who'd been a victim of sexual assault to tell her story. So I think she's open to learning. I wish more people were open to admitting when they're wrong. It's shocking that it's Stassi that's the one that's constantly admitting that she fucks up. If you think of Stassi season 1, that would never happen. With the Instagram, I mean, her initials are SS, and I think she had this inside joke with her friends about, like, SS, oh, that's Nazi, oh, I'm a Nazi chick, kind of saying, oh, it's unfortunate that these are my initials and that that's what it's associated with.
Right.
They probably have some, like, sick inside joke that's really funny between them. It's not so funny on a random Instagram post.
Yeah, right.
I also think that people are really overly sensitive these days. I mean, I'm Jewish. I had family that was in the Holocaust.
Uh-huh.
I'm not offended by that. I'm offended when it's, politicians that are making statements like that, or people who are leading our country, not Stassi Schroeder. I don't look to her to be a moral compass. So people need to get over themselves, and they need to acknowledge when someone's making a joke, even if it's in distaste, to kind of, let it wash over.
Do you mean well but sometimes say the wrong thing? Are you usually pretty smart but on social media sometimes a ding-a-ling? This kind of confusion can lead to some heavy suffering. But you're not alone anymore. Not when you sign up for the Stassi Schroeder Sensitivity Training School. The Stassi Schroeder Sensitivity Training School. Learn how to keep some things private comedy. Learn how to apologize without inflaming the situation. Most importantly, learn what hot-button words you should never ever say, even after too much Pinot or Chardonnay. The Stassi Schroeder Sensitivity Training School. Tuesdays and Thursdays in the back room of the Pleasure Chest, Santa Monica Boulevard, West Hollywood. And for those outside Los Angeles or shut-ins based in Los Angeles, Stassi's lessons are available via online courses at smartandfinal.com.
So we were talking a little bit before about people's growth and journeys through the show, specifically Katie's and Sheena's lack of. So what do you think about Jax's arc? Because to me, last year...
It's not an arc, it's a circle.
Yeah. Because it seemed for a while like he did have a sort of progressive, if you want to say that, arc.
Yeah.
Right?
It did. It totally did.
What's your take on Jax in the last year?
So I was so proud of Jax for being in a relationship with Brittany, for seeming to settle down, for being a little bit more open and honest about his feelings for a woman.
Yeah.
And then, as one of my friends said, when times get hard, so does Jax. So
that's a really good one.
Yeah. And I really think that he doesn't have coping mechanisms for any sort of difficulty that he encounters.
Right.
So he goes back to sleeping around, drinking, other ridiculous behavior, and he needs to learn some goddamn coping skills.
It'd be good to have one or two that aren't so destructive.
Right. And so it's just unfortunate that he hasn't been able to overcome those things, and that he takes it out on Brittany, who is everyone's favorite and just so lovely.
Yeah.
So I'm thoroughly disappointed with Jax, but I also still think that there is some hope for redemption.
Interesting.
So my take is that I know recently he lost his father.
Yes.
And I lost my mom 2 years ago, and it's a really defining moment in a person's life to lose a parent who is a person you look up to, a best friend, the person who cared for you growing up. It is life altering.
Sure.
And it does change you. And I'm crossing my fingers that he uses this as a moment of being completely broken to rebuild himself in a way that's healthy. Leaning on his friends, leaning on his family, leaning on Brittany, but also realizing that most of his relationships have been it's not give and take. He's taking everything.
Yeah.
She's doing everything for him right now.
Right.
And I don't know what she gets out of it. And I think once he gets out of the fog of grief, he'll be able to take a step back and say, okay, she's clearly someone I need in my life. What do I need to do to keep her in my life?
Yeah.
And not just because it's good for us as a couple, but because it's good for me as a person. Like, I should be going to therapy regularly. I should figure out why I do the things that I do. I should, really figure out some skills to handle when I get frustrated or when I get angry or when I go through a period of not having sex with my partner. You have to have ways to talk about that, to work through that.
Sure.
That's going to happen in a marriage, in life. It just does.
Yeah.
And so if every time that happens, you run away and go sleep with their friend, I mean, that's not healthy for you. I'm sure it eats away at him inside.
Oh, yeah, I'm
It
sure.
clearly hurts her.
Oh, yeah.
So it's in everyone's best interest for him to do some self-exploration. And I think sometimes when you've hit kind of the bottom is when you're able to really build yourself back up. So I have some hopes for him, but I don't know.
Well, it's a very nice and thoughtful consideration of Jack's.
It's probably too nice.
Well, but that speaks to the hopefulness in the human spirit, I think.
One thing I've noticed is a lot of people that I've heard on other podcasts and speak to kind of hate watch this show.
Oh, yeah.
They're like, oh, you're supposed to hate these people. And it's like, I watch this show. I love these people.
Yeah.
Like, I'm rooting for these people. I don't want them to mess up so badly. I want there to be drama and stuff. But when they're all getting along, it's great television as well.
I agree.
So I don't think it needs to be as crazy and dramatic and hurtful as it is for it to be fun to watch. And I'm rooting for everyone. I want everyone to do well.
The hate watch thing, I don't really get it. And I think that people who say that, actually, they're really invested in the people, but they don't want to admit it.
Yeah. Like, I hate watch the Green Bay Packers.
I'm sorry, that's sports, and I'm completely confused with that. But I get the corollary there. I get the idea of the joke. We were talking about how to deal with when the romance is flagging a bit in a relationship, which makes me think of Tom and Ariana, who seem to be going through a stretch of bed death and are not really getting along in general. And I wanted to see what you thought about that, because also, earlier you said that if Sheena's a friend of Ariana's, then she must not be that bad of a person. So clearly you're fond of Ariana as well. So
fond of Ariana. I know that Ariana and Stassi don't get along, but they're two of my favorite people. So it's really tough for me.
Don't you also wish they did? I always wish they did. Yeah.
And seeing Ariana and Kristen get along just warms my heart, because I love when like old rivals get together and bond over a common enemy.
Sure.
But for Tom and Ariana, I feel like we're just witnessing a normal relationship.
Uh-huh.
I really think that every couple has something that goes on.
Yeah.
3 or 4 years into a relationship. Most of it's not on television. Most people don't talk about it.
Yeah.
But, she's dealing with something that is really real that a lot of women can relate to.
Sure.
And I think Tom is being sensitive about it. I don't think that he thought that every single time in his confessional when he talked about their lack of having sex that it would come up. I think they probably used every second of footage of that.
Oh, I'm sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
Ariana said something to that effect on Watch What Happens Live the other night.
Oh my gosh, her and Brittany were on. I didn't get to watch that one yet. I appreciate Tom and Ariana so much, both as individuals and as a couple.
Sure.
And I really think that they appreciate each other as individuals, which I love watching that. So I think they'll get through this. I think a lot of couples go through it, especially usually around having children and stuff like that. And it can be really frustrating and difficult to talk about. Most people probably wouldn't go to their girlfriend's brother to talk about it. I thought that was a little odd.
Yeah, that was a little uncomfortable. Touchy.
But he handled it with grace.
Handling things with grace, it just reminds me of Sheena's continual running down of Shay. Because, Tom and Ariana go to Rob's house, which, I mean, really, is that his house? Like, I don't know. There's something funny about it to me. I don't know why. And
I was annoyed that he had it catered because if you can't cook for 3 other people, like, what is wrong with you? Why do you need that shit catered?
Are those the only options, having it catered, or as Sheena puts it, dino nuggets? By the way, what are dino nuggets? I should have researched this, but
I should have. It sounds like a child food. Like,
it does.
But I don't think she eats it.
From the looks of it, the two of them were equally enthusiastic about the Capri Suns and the TV dinners back in the day.
It makes me sad because I think Sheena is talking herself into liking Rob because it fits the sort of lifestyle that she wants to have.
Sure, yeah.
She just is so lost in who she is. I don't really know Rob. I just was not impressed by the nice house and
right.
the catering. That made him as less real than anyone I've seen in a long time on this show. Just be yourself, and if your real life is having things catered, then you belong on Real Housewives of Beverly Hills. You do not belong on Vanderpump Rules.
So are you also a fan of Housewives of Beverly Hills?
Oh, yeah.
Me too, yeah.
But that's their life. They live. That's their authentic life.
And also on Beverly Hills, remember Dana? Dana certainly did not have the means to afford the lifestyle that she presented. It's not a new thing on a show like this to see someone sort of fronting. Right.
And Cynthia Bailey
in
Atlanta. Mm-hmm.
Absolutely.
And so I don't know why he feels the need to show off like this. And also the one interesting thing I've noticed on this season is both Tom Schwartz and Tom Sandoval have had man crushes, quote unquote, on the new boyfriends.
Oh yeah, that's right.
Like Patrick and Rob. I don't know if that's a real plot line or if they're just saying it, but it's kind of weird to me.
It reads as jokey to me, or some kind of, one of the premise-y type things that just sort of lands into the show, and you're like, Schwartz is a very charming guy, so he's kind of like that. He's like, oh man, you're glowing, blah, blah. So I don't know. He's a very friendly, and like you said, he's from Minnesota, and that's how people are there most of the time.
We're just nice people, man. Don't cause a lot of controversy.
It's that Minnesotan charm. What is your take on Patrick? Clearly you have very positive feelings towards Stassi. So do you like Patrick?
He just seems so uncomfortable on camera that I can't tell what he's really like.
Right.
At all.
There's just been a sense of unease in the 2 times that we've seen him.
I personally think that if you ever break up with someone...
Yeah.
Number 1, you probably shouldn't get back together. But 2, if you do get back together, that has to be it.
No third or fourth chances.
Exactly. There's only one breakup that each couple could have in their duration as a couple.
Yeah.
And it's like your get out of jail free card. It's like your one time. But if you keep going back, there's a reason why this keeps happening, and it means it's not meant to be. People
sometimes, they get addicted to the drama and the anguish of the ups and downs.
Yeah.
The peaks in the diagram. And there's no middle bits. Yeah.
People want relationships with passion, but passion shouldn't have to mean these extreme highs and these low lows and these terrible, we love each other hard, but we fight hard too.
Yeah.
Call me crazy. I like a kind of more stable, Netflix watching.
Right. Fun.
You enjoy each other's company. You laugh. You like each other's families.
Yeah, right. You kind of relax sometimes.
Call me crazy, but, feeling like you're the best version of yourself around them is probably what a healthy relationship is. And I'm not big on the highs and lows.
Yeah, that's a very controversial and outrageous opinion, by the way. I just want to add that.
Call me crazy. I like getting along with people.
Is there anyone on the show that you really don't like? Or maybe have misgivings about?
Sheena, just this season, I just can't get over because I just want to shake her and be like, girl, you have got this. You just need to be yourself. Forget Instagram, forget, everything everyone's told you, the haters and your fans and everything, and just dig deep into who you are and figure that out again because you lost it.
So you like James even more than you like Sheena on the show?
Oh, I love James.
Yeah.
I think James is hilarious. He might not be a great person, but man, is he good television. And I will take that any day. He is so funny. I routinely, when I get upset with, like, my friend and I are just hanging out, we'll randomly shout, Puntini!
Yeah, it's a classic. He's got so many lines that are so funny. One of my favorites, and it took me the second viewing of the episode to really catch it, when he was like, DJ Jax Taylor in the building, which I thought was hilarious. And I would also go to that DJ night just to see what happens.
I mean, even going back a few seasons, the Beamer selfie.
Yeah. Yeah.
Was so funny. I don't know if he was he meant to be funny back then, and then he realized how funny he was, and he kept kind of doing it again. But James, I like James sober, and I appreciate James Kennedy sober.
Yeah.
And so I think he's highly entertaining regardless. And so, who I don't quite get is his girlfriend.
Interesting. How come?
She doesn't say much. She seems quite lovely. She likes dogs. I noticed in this week's episode when all the girls were huddled listening to the voice recording, she was holding one of the puppies. She seems like kind of dead behind the eyes. So I know there's something there. I want to hear her talk more.
Sure. There's something there. You're not entirely sure what, and will we ever see it?
Will we ever see it? Yeah, I don't think there's anyone I truly dislike on the show. I really appreciate everyone. Maybe Faith. I don't like sort of, and that guy, he's one of the other servers, the one who told Brittany about Jax hooking up with Faith.
Jesse?
Yes.
Uh-huh.
Really got bad vibes from him. Like through the television. I was like, ooh, that boy is thirsty.
Oh, that's so funny.
I just really felt like they thought that by creating that drama on that first episode, that it would secure them a place in the season.
This segment brought to you by Thirsty Brand Paper Towels, the new joint venture from Signature Brand Paper Products and America's sweetheart, Faith Stowers. Order now and receive free of charge limited edition Thirsty Tampons. Thirsty, the quicker picker-upper for when you should suffer.
My favorite part of this episode was such a small moment, but when Katie and Schwartz are entering the speakeasy, she quietly says, "It's like Narnia."
Yeah, right. Yeah,
and
I love that too.
I just really related to her in that moment because I was like, oh my gosh, Stassi, Katie, and Kristen are actually nerds at heart.
Oh, massive nerds. That reminds me of my regular assertion that Stassi really should date someone who's like a video game designer, someone who's a professional nerd who's turned that into a livelihood.
Oh my gosh. I 100% agree. I think she needs someone who's, one, never heard of the show, two, has no idea who she is, and three, is like maybe like a mollusk expert, like a marine biologist who goes out during the day and studies mollusks or something super weird and intricate.
Really niche and obsessive.
Really niche, yeah. But also that she would really appreciate their skill, and they would probably really appreciate her wit. She's a very charming, funny person.
She absolutely is. And I find in the two scenes that we've seen her with Patrick, I find her sort of a little too quiet or something. Or maybe that's just what we see of the incident. You know what I mean?
Yeah. She doesn't seem to be like the most herself around him. But that's probably because it sounds like he wouldn't be in the show with her for many years. And so now that he's agreed, she's probably walking on eggshells to make sure he's comfortable.
Which is never a good thing.
But that's a lot of what these women do in the show. They seem to be walking around eggshells for their boyfriends, which is a bit ridiculous because they are awesome and their boyfriends should really be worshiping them.
I think it's interesting in the cultural context with which we find ourselves in and watching this season. There's a whole lot of subtext going on. And
there is.
Yeah. And the A being of the two fights, the Ariana Sandoval fight and the Jax Brittany argument, is a classic Vanderpump moment. Like, that is the show at its highest achievement. You get really wrapped up into each one. Them sharing the lines of taking responsibility. It makes Sandoval's thing seem so much worse than it is, As frustrating as his argument may be and all that, and the difficulty of parsing out who's right and who's wrong, or is it their business to begin with, he didn't really do anything bad. He may be having a sort of fly-off-the-handle reaction to it. Jax did do something bad, but Sandoval is hit with the shrapnel of it because emotionally you're back and forth.
Right. And he was really kind of basically telling her she had the wrong reaction. And
right.
She's very clearly telling him, I am not always going to have the right reaction because I am a human.
Well, and also someone telling someone else you had the wrong reaction to something.
It's not the best way to share that information.
Right, exactly.
Like, I would have done it this way. It's like, well, who cares how you would have done it? You weren't the one that was in the situation.
The way you were feeling was wrong. Is not
you
great.
Can never tell someone that their feelings are wrong.
Right.
It's the one thing that can't be wrong.
It was very funny when Sandoval had to urge James to relax when he came over because he could tell, even with the craziness going on, the last thing we need right now is James getting Jax a little more riled up.
Well, do you think James was freaking out because his girlfriend was wrapped in that group and was hanging out with the girls? Do you think he was worried it would come out that he was the reason that the tape existed?
Maybe. He could have been. But then again, I don't think he would care that much because the blame is not going to really stick to him.
But that's where Jax would put the blame. It would be on anyone but himself.
Oh, you know what? You're right. With Jax, absolutely. Because then later he admits to stealing the recording, but then puts the full blame on Ariana and Lala. And I can't actually remember what he says outside or if he says anything about whether or not they should hear it.
I don't know, but it is just Jax just needs to own it, as Lisa Rinna would say.
That's true.
Just own it.
By the way, I'd like to take this opportunity to say hi to Sheena, and I want to thank you for listening to the show so religiously. And
Sheena, please take time and find yourself. We do love you. We know you're in there somewhere.
Isn't it great when she is hit with the info about Rob that she has this way of, she just doesn't have a poker face. She can't hide what she's feeling, but yet she seemingly tries to massage the situation or moisturize it, as Schwartz would say. And she just can't do it. Every time she tries to shift things to please her or fit the narrative that she'd like to see happening, it totally blows up in her face.
She looked like a Stepford wife that was malfunctioning.
Like she was rebooting.
And for Brittany to tell her, Brittany's doing this out of love. Maybe Kristen wants to stir the pot. I don't know. But Brittany loves her and is friends with her. And so I feel like, wouldn't you listen to a close friend telling you this? And if you didn't care and if you truly trusted him, then you would just laugh and let it go.
I mean, it's pretty telling, her reaction.
Yeah. I don't know LA, but it seems like the men there, at least if this show is any indication, don't have a very strong sense of, they lose some of their morals.
I see.
They just get confused and caught up in the amount of women that show them attention and the drinking, and they make poor decisions, which maybe are not reflective of who they are. I don't think Schwartz is a bad person. Right. I don't even think he's a cheater at heart. Yeah. Because every time he cheats, he just kisses. It's come on, I don't think he is at heart at all. I'm sure he's a really good person, but I think there is sort of this, people, especially the men, sort of get caught up in this LA lifestyle. At least it appears from watching it from Washington, D.C., where everyone's all buttoned up and whatever. I'm like, who are these people going drinking in the middle of the afternoon?
Well, that's the magic of LA. There's a lot of magic to be held if you're not sort of prone to believing the fronts. For instance, when you mentioned the thing about him having catered the meal and there's a house, and I was thinking so there's something about this that just feels like a front, like a whole presentation that there's always people who are way into talking about, oh yeah, man, I was at Catch the other day and my friend's Bentley. I actually heard someone say that. There was a gathering of people and they were talking about rolling up in their Bentley. And I was like, why would you even talk about that? What are you talking about?
It's similar in Washington, D.C. There'll be people that name drop a lot about working in Congress or working, maybe not at this White House, but at previous administrations. Sure. And
wait, you mean people don't brag about being involved in this current White House?
They're in hiding. They do not come to my neighborhood. I'm telling you, I'm not kidding. They would not be welcome in a restaurant in my neighborhood. Every sign on my street says fuck Trump or worse.
No wonder he's so fond of McDonald's then.
I know, but even the McDonald's like that I know is not in an area where I think he would be welcome. So I really think, but people, like to talk themselves up, but you always find the people that do have these awesome jobs don't feel the need to say it.
Yeah, it's funny how that is always the case.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. When it's like people bragging about being wealthy or something, there's generally some kind of rottenness in there. There's no way. Like, again, Dana on Housewives. You just don't talk about having $10,000 sunglasses.
You don't talk about money.
Yeah.
If you have money, you don't talk about it.
The recording studio, James, Lala, and Sandoval.
Oh, my God. So I had 2 different people message me during that. Because Sandoval is that kind of person that I would be friends with. Like, he is quirky and weird, but, like, owns it.
Sure.
And maybe he thinks really highly of himself, but that doesn't come across, I don't know. I would just, like, tear him down and be like, whatever.
Well, he clowns himself pretty regularly.
Yeah, like I think he's so fun, and I really appreciate people who have interesting hobbies that I can learn about. Like, that's so fun for me. So when he was doing his weird trumpet thing, I got like a couple messages, and people were like, dude, this would be your best friend. Like, you are missing out on your like other half in friendship. Because I have all kinds of weird hobbies. What I like about Kristen is her, like, how she's evolved. And maybe Jax doesn't think she's evolved enough, but I've seen a major change. And I think that's all you can ask from people is that they learn from their mistakes and they move on. And you could say whatever you want, but her friends are still her friends. So there must be some good qualities to her if Stassi and Katie are still close to her.
Right, and she had to win them back as well. I mean, they were frozen out to each other.
They were totally not friends with her. So I think if she could win them over, she can win me over. But that studio recording, and I mean, just the shot alone of the alley when they were walking in was just epic. I mean, what a like sleazy place that looked like, And I think Lala is really talented.
Yeah.
I think she's got a great voice.
Well, it reminded me of the scene of Sheena singing a few seasons ago. And not because they were so similar, but
although I think Sheena knew she wasn't that great of a singer, but knew that she could do the pop star thing. Like, she could dance and she could look super cute and she could kind of get a crowd riled up.
Right.
Whereas Lala seems like she's more into the music.
Now, what did you make of the wrap-up of the housewarming party, where basically the guys go down to Katie and Schwartz's, and then it's ladies' night with those cool pink lady jackets, by the way. I thought those were a really nice touch.
I mean, they had all the artichoke dip and all the Jello shots.
Yeah, exactly. I love also, I mean, they drink a lot of the show, but when people are so obviously hammered and there's a shot that doesn't seem to have any other purpose except for Brittany going, okay, I'll have to the Jello Bears or something like that. She's just totally tanked, and she's also so hammered, justifiably so, when she comes in off the balcony, and it's like, we're all gonna listen on the Bluetooth like she's just wasted.
Yeah, that was a bit tough to watch because I agree that it wasn't the right time, but at the same time, is there a right time? I don't know.
Right.
I think it would have probably been better to wait until the next day and have her listen sober. Sure. I think she'd been equally as mad.
Oh, yeah. I mean, how can you even react to a recording like that? Can you imagine that? Like, if you've been cheated on, and does anyone ever have that happen to them? Is there ever? I mean, have you ever heard of anything like that?
No.
Oh, there's a recording of it.
And a recording of him saying, like, all the most terrible things about her, and basically saying he would never marry her, doesn't want kids. But I mean, she's been holding on to that as the reason she's still with him.
Sure.
He's told her family he plans to marry her. Mm-hmm. He's told her she wants children. Early in the first episode of the season, he's like, oh, maybe we'll have kids one day. And, she gets all giddy and glowy-eyed. I really did not appreciate how the guys I think they felt a need to protect Jax, but I think he's been protected long enough.
Sure.
And okay, let's go back to, our apartment. And Schwartz goes, I'm going to go get some more alcohol. I'm like, no, that's the last thing you need.
Listen, the Coke
Please.
Zero is not going to help him because he tries to give him that and he's like, this is not going to work.
Yeah. I thought that the way that they called out Ariana was unfair, and they were being just as ridiculous as the girls were when the girls were like, everyone needs to hear this, They let Brittany do her thing, and what I really didn't appreciate was Jack saying, this was supposed to be between me and you, because it's not. It's between him and her and like a million viewers.
Right. And also the whole friend group, I mean, you do something like that in a tight friend group or even a loose friend group, it has ramifications and there are after effects. The whole thing of him trying to shut it down, that's just not an okay thing to blow up at her about.
He just has a temper that he needs to get a hold of.
Yeah.
And someone needs to check him, because and then the whole take responsibility, both him and Tom said that.
Yeah.
I was like, there is no reason for you to say take responsibility.
Yeah.
Do you have any idea how ridiculous that sounds? And he was really, this is the definition of gaslighting, of what Jax was doing to Brittany.
Right.
Just, pretending as if what happened didn't really happen, and then turning it around and it being their fault. And she knew she was being manipulated. And she said, you keep trying to manipulate me. You keep trying to turn this around. It's not about that. You did this to me.
Yeah,
and it was wrong.
Right.
And but him not acknowledging that, like, why? You've already acknowledged you've cheated. Why not just say this was wrong?
Yeah. And there's really no backing away from that. There's no way to make that seem better. There's nothing to do except, and he just, even when he's back at the apartment with Katie and Schwartz, and it's like they played that recording, the relationship's over. It's a little murky. Like, so it's over now because of this? Like, didn't you do this? This was you doing it.
It was so disturbing. The tape was disturbing enough, but I thought the reaction was actually worse.
What is the right reaction?
The right reaction is, oh my God, I am so sorry.
True.
I said so many things when I was in this dark place with her that I should never have said. There are thoughts that were deep in my mind because I'm insecure about the future. And I think that this is something that I should talk to you about after I discuss it further with a therapist.
You know what? I have to agree with you on that. that is the right reaction. Certainly not the one he had.
It was crazy.
By the way, so he throws his phone, and he didn't actually destroy his phone when he threw it the once. He then picked it up and smashed it again. He made sure that thing was absolutely destroyed, almost as if, the ghost of the recording was in that phone. And it wasn't. It was never on his.
It's not on my phone.
Oh, yeah, that whole thing. That fight was, I think, the worst fight we've ever seen with Tom and Ariana.
And she was very eloquent when she said, you know what, I'm not always going to have the best answer all of the time.
Right.
That is such a reasonable thing to say. Like, I am human. I don't always do the best thing. And whatever the best thing is in my mind is not necessarily what's in your mind. So just because I act differently than you would in a situation doesn't mean I acted incorrectly or wrongly or stupidly.
Right.
And I thought she really articulated herself well, despite being hungover and exhausted and upset. I appreciated that.
Oh, and there was one other thing I was thinking about with the Toca Madera thing with Sheena. On Watch What Happens Live, Ariana said that she was with Rob the whole night. But then I rewatched the episode just to make sure I didn't miss anything because there was so much going on.
Yeah.
And even little moments like Peter in the background.
He's the only guy. He just has there's like some still shots on Twitter.
Yeah.
That where he's just like, and they're just ignoring him completely.
Yeah, he does not want to be there, but he hasn't left the room. It's a great
He's
moment.
not quite sure how to get out.
Right. But, Ariana said she was with him the whole night, and then in rewatching the episode, Kristen says that the timeline is basically we all met up at El Carmen, and before we all met up, apparently Rob went and kissed this girl. So before they all met up is when it supposedly happened.
Well, Sheena even said, like, oh, their lips might have touched or something. I was like, well, okay.
Yeah, so if their lips might have touched, it clearly happened before they were all together. So the whole defense of that we were with him all night and she said, unless he's some kind of makeout wizard, that didn't happen. But then, she talks to Jen.
Poor Jen. Oh my God. She's just probably trying to put in an order of like a pumptini and goat cheese balls and gets accosted by Sheena.
Sheena, who is like the bad detective, who is really not understanding or hearing anything Jen says.
Well, she, oh my God, there's so much about Sheena in this episode. It just kills me because I really do believe she has to be a good person. Like, she has to be, because she cares about other people's feelings a lot, but she always brings things back to her, but that's because she's so insecure. And I tend to feel bad for people who are really insecure.
Pity them.
More than I'm like, oh, that sucks, because she's so pretty. I mean, she's beautiful. She's talented enough to get herself on this show. You know, she has a nice family. Like, it sounds like her sister and her mom are really close with her. So, you know, she's got this gig in Vegas. Like, what does she, like, come on, girl.
Right, yeah.
You know?
And also her summary of things like, Jen is saying something that is not similar to what Sheena's saying. And then she's like, cool, that's like, exactly what I heard, right?
She's like, case closed.
Yeah. And she's like, deal with that, bitches, in the interview thing. I'm like, what? Who? No one. It's like not the big case that you think it is.
Yeah, there's a lot with Rob. So I feel like Rob is also playing it up because when Sheena was on Watch What Happens Live, he called in for the after show.
Well, are you broken up or not?
I mean, Sheena and I have been broken up for a little bit, but literally our relationship has maintained the same for the last 12 years. Like, we are each other's best friends, and you know, that has been in and out of relationship for a lot of that 12 years. It's been great.
Rob, I want to know why you don't like to kiss.
You know, I don't like to kiss in public. There's a difference.
Oh, okay.
Still in private, not the biggest kisser.
You know.
Okay. Rob, let me ask you this. Did you think that Sheena was moving too fast? Was that one of the reasons you broke up?
That's not one of the reasons at all, no. I mean, it full transparency, you know, everything happens for a reason. Sheena and I have truly always had a great amount of respect for each other and always loved each other. The truth is, it's really hard in her circle of friends. It's like, individually, when they're by themselves, they're really great people, but you put that group of people together, and they're savages. They come after you, and it's really hard to have a successful relationship in with those people coming and attacking you from all sides. And at the end of the day, we've done a great job of communicating really well and supporting each other and being there for each other. And at the end of the day, we have a great relationship because we communicate through everything, and we always support each other. And if it's not, you know, right now, then it's in the future. And we know that, and we're okay with that, but it's really hard, you know. Her world is sometimes really hard to feel secure in.
That's not really an excuse not to be with, like, if you want to be with someone, you're with them. It doesn't, like, even if the timing's not right, even if your jobs overlap, even if you live in different continents, like, if you really love someone, you will be with them and you will not be with anyone else.
Right.
And so I don't ever use the excuse of like, oh, I just like need some time for myself. Whatever it is. It's like, okay, you don't want to be with me.
That's what it, like, right. At the end of the day, that's what it is. The assertion that he's just not a kisser is so stupid.
I talked about that on my podcast about how, like, that's a red flag. Everyone's a kisser.
Everyone's a kisser. And if they're not a kisser, they don't want to kiss you, so why are you with them? You're not really with them.
Right. It's super creepy because I was like, then what do you do?
Right.
Like, do you just have sex and not kiss? Because that is awful. It sounds like stripper sex.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we've heard about that with prostitutes. Like, that's a common thing, the no kissing thing. Yeah.
Yeah. I just think that she likes his excuses because they fit whatever narrative she wants to tell herself.
Well, Mandy, I can't thank you enough for joining us. I had a really terrific time talking with you. And
this was so fun.
Yeah, we'll have to do it again sometime.
Yes, anytime. Huge fan of Pump Rules.
And what's your Twitter handle again?
Yeah, so you can actually find me at Mandy Slutsker. It's MandySlutsker. And the podcast is at ITRL_podcast is this real life podcast.
Find us on Instagram and Twitter at PumpRulesPod or go to pumprolespodcast.com for more information. Email pumprolespodcast@gmail.com and follow on Facebook at facebook.com/pumprolespodcast. Thanks for listening and see you next time.